Hey, how's everybody doing today? In this video, I just wanted to make a little video about my completed landscape photography kit. Instead of showing you another unboxing, as I picked up one more lens, I just figured I'd show you the whole completed kit now, since what I wanted to achieve optics-wise is done. Knock on wood. There's always another lens. But really, I got an extra lens already. So I'll just start with the extra lens. That's the 45 f2.8. Of course, the Fujifilm GFX series. So medium format I knew was going to be a pretty good chunk of change, and I wanted to do it as reasonably as possible, but still cover the bulk of the focal range that I needed to. So I wanted to do that with 3 lenses. I know I ended up with 4, but I'll tell you why. The fourth one, let's say, is the GF45 f2.8. So this is the most popular focal length that I used in full frame. Which is, it's a 36 millimeter equivalent. When I shot full frame, my Sigma 35 millimeter art lens, the 1.4, that was my most used optic. And I shot a lot of skylines with it. I shot people with it. You can do some really nice environmental portraiture. It's just a little bit wider than a normal lens, and it gives you just a little bit more space around your subject. And I found that really nice. So I thought, for sure, I got to get this one. And it's just kind of my multi-purpose lens. But as far as my landscape, cityscape kind of kit goes, this one is probably staying home. So the kit is these 3. So I got the, first of all, I needed the normal zoom, or the mid-range zoom. The 45 to 100 seemed like the ideal choice because it's between a 36 millimeter and 79 millimeter angle of view. So it's kind of like your the 35 to 70s they used to have for full frame. But I had the 35 to 70 kit lens, and that lens would be like a way to take money and weight out of this system. So that is a nice lens, but it would go a little bit wider than this, not as long. So this one actually allows you to do portraits, but I also think that it will remain on the camera more often because it zooms out to 100. It is heavier than the 35 to 70. It's like 3 times the weight almost, and cost. It costs more, but it has built-in stabilization, which works with the stabilization in the camera, giving you even more stability. So this would be the ideal lens, I think, for if you were to take aerial photos from a helicopter, because you can't set a tripod up. I'm just trying to think reasons why I wouldn't. Why I would need the stabilization. Perfect wedding lens and everything, but really this for me is for landscapes and cityscapes. So this will likely be my most used lens because that covers both sides of the most popular focal lengths I use. The other one, well, next I got the telephoto. So I got the 100 to 200 millimeter, which in full frame terms is 79 to 158. Which should be telephoto enough for 90% of the subjects that I want to shoot. I would consider getting a longer lens, except the one that's longer than this is only a 250 currently. I know Fuji has some stuff, at least they're getting patents for some longer stuff for the GFX system, but I think those would be mostly geared for sports shooters. But this one's nice and light. It's a 5.6 max aperture, so, and it's also stabilized. So you can handhold this and get nice sharp shots. I'm still testing this one. So far it seems really nice. The focus is quick. I believe this one has the linear motor. Double check that. Yeah, linear motor, optical stabilization, nice and light really. Between these two, it feels about the same. And then of course it's got the tripod foot, so that's cool, and a really long lens hood. So that'll be handling the long end of the spectrum. I don't care that it's 5.6 or only 5.6, because I'll be shooting it mostly at f11 to f13 or so. Because in landscapes you pretty much just want sharpness. So then I got the last one I picked up. This one completed the set, and this was the one I was most concerned with as far as which one should I go with. And my options were at the wide end, the 30mm f3.5, which is what this one is, the 23mm f4, which is a lot heavier and more expensive than this one, and wider, with about an 18mm equivalent in full frame. This one's about a 24mm equivalent in full frame, so like 84-degree angle of view, somewhere around there. Or they have a new one. Fuji's got the GF 20 to 35 f4, and it's right around the same price as just the fixed 23mm. So I think a lot of people are going to that one, but the lens is $2,500, so it's a chunk of change, and it's also heavier. The reviews I've seen on this lens were pretty good. They had a few concerns, whether it was worth it for just one focal length and potential for flaring. So we're going to see how it goes. So with the sun in the image or bright city lights at night, if I get some flare issues or not. But the one thing it is razor sharp, like stupid sharp. So we'll see if that's a hindrance. But I went for the 30. I bought it used, so saved about $650 or $700 plus the tax on that by buying used, and it's like unused condition. The guy said he shot 67 photos with the camera, and he was selling the camera too, and this is just one of the lenses he had, so there might be 10 shots on this lens, if that. But showed up in pristine condition. I ordered this one new, and then the 45 was also used but in pristine condition, you couldn't tell. And this one I bought used. This one I got $700 off also, and I got $700 off the 45, so $2,100 off lenses just because somebody else opened them. So trying to run this like a business. If I had to buy all these, everything brand new, it would it'd just be a lot longer for me to be able to recoup my investment on the equipment. This time around, I'm really trying to recoup that investment. So I've shot semi-professionally for 28 years, but there was a while there when I was shooting weddings, I was recouping my investment. I was paying for my gear, and I'd shoot a wedding and I'd buy another lens, and then I'd shoot a wedding and I'd buy filters and a flash that I needed, and I'd shoot a couple more weddings and I'd buy a body, so I just pumped it all right back into the gear. This time I'm trying to turn a profit, so we'll see how that goes. There's not much more to get, and actually I bought, while we're on the subject, the GFX 50 S2. So people probably want to know, why didn't I get the 100S? Well, I didn't get the 100S because it's a couple years old. The 50S2 is actually newer, even though it's an older sensor. But you see all those, when they can update the sensor. These are people that don't have it. Because I was one of those too. Geez, that sensor's 7 years old. You have to see the image quality that comes off that's stupid. It doesn't have phase detect autofocus, but for landscapes that actually might be a plus, because you don't need fast focus acquisition and you don't need eye detect focus, right? What you need is dynamic range, color fidelity, sharpness. And from the tests I've seen between the 50S2 and the 100S, this is actually the sharper sensor. There's no phase detect lines of sensors between the rows of pixels. So it's just solid pixel information. And then also the micro lenses that are on the sensor over each pixel have a design where there's like no gaps between the pixels, let's say. So it's super sharp. The sensor is super sharp. So one problem with that is the potential for aliasing, but I haven't seen it be very much of a problem yet. So I'll just take the extra sharpness, I think. We're talking about really fine details that wouldn't really matter. But anyway, smaller image size, or smaller file size, that does matter because I have 12 terabytes of storage in my computer and it's filling up very fast now. This thing spits out each shot, like each shot that I render, that I master off a RAW and then import in a TIFF, it's over 300 megabytes per photo. So 3 pictures, you got a gigabyte. So you can see how quickly that'll add up. Filter wise, now I wanted to take, I still have to get a backpack, by the way. I want to put all these lenses into a bag, be able to throw it on my back, and I want to go see some stuff. I haven't seen Grand Canyon National Park yet, Bryce Canyon, Zion. I want to get to some skylines like Seattle with Mount Rainier in the background. Hopefully the mountain's out when I see it. I'm going to do Pittsburgh because that's close enough to me to drive to. Chicago, I want to hit LA. I'm not looking forward to the traffic there, but I am pretty psyched about In-N-Out Burger again. I have to get back to Yosemite because the last time I was at Yosemite, cameras were 6 megapixel and they were crop sensor. So I shot that and I shot some medium format film, but I want to get back there with medium format digital. I've also never been there in the springtime. So when the water fountain falls are running. So I want to see that. I want to get back to Las Vegas, and I might do that next month. And I want to drive to Death Valley because I've never seen that. That's very scenic. I want to get sunrise from Zabriskie Point. And there's a Badwater Basin where there's the salt flats. And they form these neat hexagons and stuff with the mountains in the background. I'd like to see that. That's very condition dependent, though. It depends on the rain and all that. So whether it forms the hexagons or not, it's hard to tell. Japan has always been a dream of mine. So we'll see. I got to get back to New York. Manhattan, I've always wanted to do autumn in New York and see Central Park with all the leaves changed. So got a lot of things I want to see and pictures I want to take. So this right here is the system that's going to do that for me, hopefully. So one thing with all these, I could talk for like 5 hours if you let me, but about this equipment. One of the things that I've noticed in testing these lenses is that I'm sure it's just a limitation in general with medium format because the sensor's bigger. None of the lenses really focus that close. So there's not very great macro ability with any of these. I know they have a dedicated macro lens, the 120 millimeter, but it's big, it's heavy, it's expensive, and even it can only focus to 1/2 life size. It's not giving you 1:1 like most true macro lenses. So I got a Viltrox 18 millimeter extension tube. And from what I'm told, I haven't even opened this yet. From what I'm told, on the 45 to 100, 18 millimeter extension is just about perfect. And then it works great. It's just a hollow empty tube with contacts that connects the lens to the body and then allows you to focus closer. So I do some still life photography in my basement, actually with these lights, and none of these lenses can focus close enough to get something on a desktop. So any kind of product photography or if I'm shooting pictures for eBay, this will be the lens. If I want to get flower shots or something, or this will be the extension tube that makes them focus closer. I have for filters, I'm not a big fan of filters, but there are a couple that you really kind of need for landscape photography. One of them that I'm not sure that I really need is the graduated neutral density. Also, I don't know that this is even big enough to cover this one, the 82 millimeter diameter. It might be, I have to double check that. But I might have some vignetting. This is so when you want to hold back the exposure on the sky, let's say, because it's always a lot brighter than the foreground. You put that on, holds back you line it up with the horizon, you hold back the exposure of the sky. It's kind of like an HDR in camera. So you can get the full dynamic range of the scene. So it's a 3-stop. It's the Galen Rowell neutral density filter. The thing is with modern photography, people are taking 2 exposures. So they're taking one for the sky and they're taking one for the foreground, and then it's getting blended in Photoshop. So that makes this a bit less useful. We'll see how it goes. If I find it hard doing the one technique over another, I'll just leave this off the list, or I'll use it. The other thing is, speaking of HDR, high dynamic range in camera, the medium format sensor kind of does that now. It's kind of ridiculous. The one thing you don't want to do, which I'm finding out, is you don't want to blow out your highlights. So you want to shoot basically for your highlights, but the thing with this sensor is that you can pull detail out of the shadows like nobody's business. So you can shoot to not blow out the highlights and get a nice sky, let's say, and then you can just drag your shadow slider up as high as you want it to go and pull all your detail back out of the dark parts of the image, and it's pretty incredible. So there's a lot of times when a normal camera, a full frame, or an APS-C camera, you would have to take multiple shots. The other little thing here about the 50 megapixel is you have no phase detect pixel rows. You have no phase detect sensors on the sensor for the autofocus. So when you do drag all those shadows back up and pull detail out of them, you don't get any banding. That is something I've heard of people having on the 100S. I don't know how big of a problem it is because I don't have the 100S, but this doesn't have that problem. So it also does the pixel stitching, which gives you a 200 megapixel image where it moves the sensor around. I guess everything in the scene has to be absolutely stable to get that resolution out of it, but I'll be able to tell when I'm able to use that and when I'm not. Anyway, I picked up, continuing on filters, I'm a little scrambled here, the 67 millimeter polarizer. This is a K&F concept multi-coated circular polarizer. This is the 67, so this is actually for my 45. Oh, sorry, no, this is actually for my 100 to 200. It's only a 67 millimeter. So, got a polarizer, because polarizers cut polarized light, reflections off leaves and foliage and stuff, and bring out a lot of color saturation. You know, it's like when you're wearing sunglasses when the sun's out. Everything looks more saturated and colored. Same thing. That wasn't terribly expensive. I think it was 40 bucks, something like that. I've spent a fortune on filters, and I almost never put them on the camera, so I'm getting a bit less expensive ones. Now, my main filter, I did get a little bit more pricey one, because this will be the camera or the lens that's used most often. So I got the Polar Pro 82 millimeter. Now I want to be shooting waterfalls as well as foliage and stuff. So this is actually a combination polarizer and neutral density filter, because I want to be able to cut the light a bit so I can get the silky water effect. So this is a 3-stop filter, just a mild neutral density, but also polarizing. So waterfalls, mostly water, rivers, waterfalls, anything with water in it, this is going to be great. As well as it'll be able to be used as a normal polarizer. Now, when I don't want a slower shutter speed, I'm just going to have to deal with it, I guess, because I don't want to carry 2. So that's why I got the mild neutral density and not a very strong one. So I can use it in normal situations. I'll just use either a bigger aperture or a higher ISO. Another benefit of the medium format. You can crank the ISO up and still get a great photo. It's pretty amazing. Anyway, this is my landscape photography kit. I haven't got a filter for the 30mm yet. We'll see if I need one. It does kind of annoy me that these are 3 lenses and they're 3 different filter sizes. That would be one benefit of the 23mm instead, but the 23mm is so wide that I think I would find fewer uses for it. I think the 30 is going to be a lot more useful. So I need to get a backpack yet. I have a Low Pro Photo Trekker AW, but that bag's like 10, 11 pounds just for the bag. And then you put the gear in it and it's like, I've got herniated discs in my back. I can't carry that around. So I'm gonna try to get places mostly close to the car, but I also want a lighter backpack. So I gotta figure out something there. I also got another tripod. And I did the same kind of philosophy. I was looking for something a bit cheaper, and but also lighter, so I can carry it with me without problems. So I bought part of that used, I bought the legs used, and I'm going to discuss that in another video because I'm just rambling on. So anyway, if you have any suggestions for neat little things that I could add to my kit, or filter options or anything, let me know. I still need I need a laptop and I need some hard drives for backing up, because I expect to get to some of these locations and just take a ton of photos. Anyway, thanks for watching. Sorry for rambling. We'll see you on the next one. Have a good one.